Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and we are back with our top 100, this time doing 50 through 41. This is the second half, the final half, the best half. This is the best half of the top 100 games of all time as of 2024. As usual, quick journal notes before we dive into it. First of all, my top 100 games of all time as of 2024 is exactly that. It's as of 24. It's where my current thoughts and feelings are based on all the games I have ever played, well, ever. To that end, I do definitely prioritize games that I want to play right now based on how I'm feeling about them. And my system for it is I basically D-rank everything, then I go ahead and re-rank all my games into 4s, 4.5s, 5s, etc. Then I throw it all into Pub Meeple, and then do some manual massaging in order to go ahead and make sure it's exactly where I want it to be. That's basically the top 100. Before we dive into this particular list, regular reminder that I am currently running my end-of-year funding drive. If you appreciate the many videos I put out over the course of the year, you can go ahead and check out my giveaway video. I'll have it linked down below and top of the description somewhere there. But I did a full giveaway and channel membership video drive where effectively I'm giving away a whole bunch of games to current and future Patreon and Ko-Fi and YouTube members of the channel. So you can go ahead and check that out, either if you want to win free games or if you just want to support the channel. With that, let's go ahead and do the number 50 over here. This is the top half. We're dealing with number 50, one that has gone up a little bit since last year. It's been my top 100 a bit, but it's gone up a few marks for me, and that's Decrypto from Yellow. Decrypto is a party game that forces you to be clever. Working on two teams, you're going to have basically code masters, and you're trying to basically give input to your team that will get them to figure out the sequence and order of the cards you have. So you have 4 words basically. Every team's gonna have 4 words, but then it's up to you to try to put together something that's not necessarily obvious, but just gives them just enough tools or information to guess the order. So for example, my teammates might know that the words are bread, car, horse, and star. Okay, bread, car, horse, and star. And I have to get them to do bread, horse, and star in that order. So to that end, I might sit there and say food, fast, big. Food, fast, big. And that will hopefully get them to guess the specific 3 things out of the 4 and in the right order. This is the beginning of the game. But what happens is, as the game goes on, the other team is going to have a chance to start noticing patterns. Maybe I said food one turn, and I said nutritious another turn. Maybe I said money another turn, and people might start putting things together and be like, bread could be money, food, and nutritious. It could be that. Someone said fluffy. You start noticing commonalities, and the other team has a chance to intercept. Which basically makes Decrypto a game that you have to be clever, and it results in funny moments. It results in trying to be too clever at times, trying to not be clever enough, but ultimately it's an excellent party game that fulfills that party game aspect while also giving you a game which you're going to hopefully feel smart as you play it. Hopefully. If you don't feel smart as you're playing Decrypto, this may or may not be a game for you. That's my number 50 over here. Number 49 is kind of a category, but I chose my best in class within that category. And I never know fully exactly where to put this, but this is the Emerald Flame, aka escape room games in general, but this is the face of that. Escape room games in general are a full genre in the hobby, and it's always tricky to put them in my top 100 because inherently I play them and then I'm done with them. I'm not going to go back to an escape room game that I've solved the puzzle for. There's no reason to do that unless I get to a point where I literally forgot everything about that puzzle. But I've played legacy games twice, I've played campaign games twice, I've yet to play an escape room game twice, and I don't see that happening. So it's always hard to put them in my top 100, which is why this kind of gets a category as opposed to me being like, my number 49 is Dungeon Crawler, and this is the face of it. That's different. But in this case, escape room games in general are a hugely popular subgenre within the hobby, and I find them tremendously satisfying. I'm going to focus on the Emerald Flame as my best-in-class version of it, because this, from Post Curious, is, well, the best escape room game I've ever played. It draws out across 3 kind of chapters, so to speak. The whole game is going to run you somewhere between 6 to 9 hours, depending on how fast you approach the puzzle, also possibly the player count. But basically, you have an escape room in a box. You have a goal, some degree of trying to figure things out, but then various components and stuff that are going to be those little tools that give you that puzzle to solve. The Emerald Flame is definitely a little pricier compared to something like an Unlock or Exit game, but it gives you the most premium feeling. It feels like a work of art as you play through it. It's incredibly satisfying. One thing I've generally said about Post Curious, all their puzzles, again, Emerald Flame is just one over here, but all of Post Curious's puzzles fall into a very hard niche to fall in, where I don't need to reference any clues to get past the puzzles, but I also don't feel the puzzles are easy. They fall into a perfect level of difficulty, at least for me. Everyone's going to have their own level of difficulty, so you might find that you need the clues, or you might find that they're too easy. For me, their puzzles fall exactly what I'm looking for. I puzzle, I look, I move around this, I adjust that. It does help if you're playing with at least one other person, because then you have 2 frames of mind of how you're approaching it. But the Emerald Flame is an excellent escape room in a box that you can play this with multiple people across 7 to 8 hours and get all that for less than the price of going to an actual escape room, getting far more gameplay experience out of it, and then possibly even resetting it and going to the next person as well. That's the Emerald Flame. Our number 48 over here is a new one to the list. This is, in fact, how many new ones do we have to the list? We have 1. Well, the Emerald Flame is technically new, but escape rooms as a genre have been in my top 100. I have 1, 2 that are new to my top 100 in this particular pairing. Is that it? I think just 2. I think 2. I could be wrong, but I think 2. Anyways, my number 48 is one that is new to the list, and I believe it will be higher next year. I could be wrong, but I believe it'll be higher next year. In fact, I wanted to put it higher this year, but I tend to be wary of putting things too high in my top 100 if I haven't played them that much. Although this one gets a caveat that I played this several times when I had it as a prototype, but the final game, the final production game, I've only just played once, and so it's currently at 48. I kind of wish it were like 20 spots higher, but I do need more plays in my belt before I'm willing to commit to that. But that is Unconcious Mind. Unconcious Mind from Fantasia Games. I played this after putting together my top games of 2024, or this would absolutely be in it. I loved this game when I covered the prototype. I gave it a 5 out of 5, and that absolutely holds up from having played this again in the current final form. This is a Euro game that it rewards you for doing everything. Your turns feel endlessly chaining as you get to do so many different things as you build out your personal tableau. It's incredibly satisfying, both in terms of the different types of pathways to victory you can try to achieve, because it's not straightforward. The game thematically kind of is, it's all about, like, you know, philosophy, and not philosophy, that's the wrong term, psychology and all that, and you are healing patients, but you could spend your whole entire game healing patients. You could go ahead and put together your scholarly journals. You could do a whole bunch of ways to earn points. This is a game where you could go through the entire game and heal 1 or 2 patients, and that is a viable pathway to victory. It doesn't have to be a focus. There's a lot of ways to earn points in this game. There's a lot of ways to try to figure out what you're trying to do, how often you're trying to recall, how often you're trying to get placement on the main center board, how often you're trying to log these scholarly journals, how often you're trying to heal patients, and all the peripheral ways you're going to get points. There's so much going on in this game from Fantasia Games. I have not yet played the expansions as of me filming this, at least, but I already have plans to dive back into it as soon as I can, because this is just a satisfying experience. Now, it is a little bit overwhelming at first to dive into it. There's a lot of moving pieces, and it can be a little bit clunky is the wrong word, but it can be a lot. It can be a lot to process, but as you start doing things, it all comes together beautifully and is an incredibly satisfying experience. I thought I liked Endless Winter, and I do like Endless Winter, but I like Unconcious Mind so much more. This is an incredible experience for Fantasia Games, my number 48. And again, I do think this is going to be higher. Come back to me next year. Let's talk next year. I'll see. I will say, sometimes I play a game, and then I play it a second or a third or fourth time, and it goes down. I am not as nervous about that here because I have played the prototype several times. This is me just playing the final game 2 years later. I think this will be up here. We'll see where it is next year. Let's talk next year. Anyways, that's my number 48. My number 47 has stuck around for a while now, and that's The Loop. One of my favorite pandemic-style games. This is at its core a cooperative experience. A cooperative experience in which you're trying to solve 4 missions on this kind of center board over here. The missions are a little variable, but the scenarios are also variable. Ultimately, this is a game where you do a good thing and the game does bad things, but you're trying to improve your deck because it's all about the loop. There's a little concept in the game of basically taking a turn again, being able to repeat certain abilities at play, but you do need to have your right combination of cards come out so you can take the most advantage of that loop. And these loops, they get progressively more expensive, so you can't just do it infinitely. It's up to you to try to figure out the right combination of being able to cycle time to repeat your actions as you try to accomplish the missions and stay out of harm's way. I find the combination of asymmetric characters, the combination of scenarios, the combination of the way you're going to build your little different deck and have different abilities is an incredibly satisfying experience. The expansions just add more variability to it. The Loop is a phenomenal little cooperative and or solo puzzle that I find tremendously enjoyable from Pandasaurus. I love this game. My number 47. My number 46 is, well, this one's intrigued, but that's because I'm just using it as a placeholder. This over here is Mythic Mischief Volume 2. Mythic Mischief Volume 1 is going to be up there somewhere on the shelf. I just decided to grab this because it's on the floor. But Mythic Mischief is my number 46, I think, up to, again, 50, 49, 58, 47, 50, 40, 46 over here is Mythic Mischief from IV Games. Currently my favorite IV Games. Brink is up there, but Brink's not eligible for the top 100 because is a prototype, but Pink is definitely up there. Love that one. But Mythic Mischief is my favorite Ivy Studios game. It is an abstract strategy with highly asymmetric factions, so it's a thematic abstract strategy asymmetric game. It works. The whole thing works. In the game, you're basically trying to either get to 10 points before your opponent, and you get points by having the headmaster put the kids in detention by kind of wandering around the map trying to capture them, or just running up the clock and having the person with the most points. Either one of those works, and which one will happen depends on your skill level in the game. But ultimately, you're trying to master your particular faction and how your characters move and what their own little quirks and unique ways of playing are, because each faction does have slight differences. Some have better abilities in some areas, some have better abilities in terms of other areas. They all have these just abilities that are different ways to, move other team members, move walls around the board. You have these one-time use abilities or after lunch abilities that you can use as well, cashing in tomes to do so. But ultimately, it's all about that abstract puzzle. It's about looking at the fact that the head key, that the head person, whatever it is, the tomb keeper, I never remember his name, the big giant guy in the middle of the board. It's all about trying to ensure that you're going to chart out his pathway, where he's trying to go next, and then you're going to figure out ways to get your own people out of the way, the opposing students in the way, and or restructure the board and walls to adjust the pathway that he's going to take to get to wherever he's going. That ability to assess your options and how to utilize your tools to be able to most efficiently capture opposing students and protect your own is going to be what drives victory in this game. I find it plays amazingly well as a 2-player game, and it's also a lot of fun as a 4-player timed experience where you're just operating under the sheer thrill of the pressure that the game is throwing at you, although the 2-player mode is, in my opinion, where it's at. Mythic Mischief, delightful experience from Ivy Games, Ivy Studios. Number 45, number 45 over here is I always lose count. 45 is a legacy game that I've played like 8 times, and I will be playing this again at some point. Don't know exactly when, but I'll be playing it again. That is My City. My City is the most accessible legacy game I've ever played. That's not entirely true. There's like some that are more accessible. If you ever played, this is a Zombie Kids one. I can't remember. Zombie Kids, Zombie Teens. Those are more accessible. But My City is the most accessible, rewarding, I think. Like Zombie Kids is cute, but it's more kid friendly and like not for me. I don't know why I'm getting sidetracked by Zombie Kids. My number 45. Number 45 is My City, a delightful game designed by Reina Knizia, put out by Cosmos, and it's an incredibly accessible legacy game that's going to give you 24 games to play. And before you get too overwhelmed by that, the sessions are like half-hour each, and they just give you that satisfaction of placing out polyominoes with specific goals in mind. But then those goals are going to adjust and shift across the 24 games as you earn more abilities and have to figure out your own little puzzle forward. It's accessible. It's easy to play. It just a half-hour per game just makes you want to play it again and again and again. I've played this game like 5 or 6 times in the physical version of it, and I've played it like, I don't know, did I say 8 times? 8 times, so it must be more than that, because maybe I played it less than that. I may have played it like 4 times physically, and then like 6 or 7 times digitally. I've played this game way more than any game should be played. My City is one of the most played games in my collection, period, because it's just, again, you knock out 24 games per session, play the whole thing 8 to 12 times. That's like 250 plays of this right here. That is My City. It is delightful. It is easy to play. It is affordable if you want to buy the physical copy. It's accessible if you want to play it on Board Game Arena. Yes, it tracks where you are in the game with the players you're playing it at. This is just, it's my go-to recommendation for a legacy game to give you that experience, to give you that thrill of, I want to play something that forces me to engage in a longer commitment and the reward of what that commitment can bring, but I don't want to be locked into something that's hard or hard to table, hard to get to table, hard to set up, hard to deal with all the rules. This is incredibly easy to learn, incredibly easy to table, incredibly easy to put away. It's just delightful. It's just delightful. I also recommend My City Roll and Build. I think that's also top notch, although My Island didn't pull me in quite the same way, unfortunately. Anyways, that's My City, my number 45. Number 44 is a very, very small box game. In fact, we're going to be going from the smallest box to the largest box in this particular section. My number 44 is Skulls of Sedlec. This is my favorite Button Shy game, and yes, that means there are no more Button Shy games in my top 100. Did I have any others? I don't remember. I think there's always a few that are on the cusp. I don't know if they made it in this year, but Sprawlopolis, Ancient Wonders. There's some really Ancient Realms, I think it's called. There are some really solid Button Shy games out there, but Skulls of Sedlec is easily and most consistently my favorite. This little 2-player game is a little bit of a drafting puzzle of trying to gather the right ability cards that can go into your engine. I actually just picked up the newest expansion at PAX, giving you archers and philosophers and Farmers, was it? I think it was Farmers, or like 3 new factions to the game that give you a little puzzle as far as how they add to the experience. But that's one of the things I love with this game. It is very easy to expand upon the core puzzle and then force players to shift up their strategies, while ultimately it's all about those core little skulls that will go into your little pyramid that you're constructing, and then trying to figure out how to optimize around the points that you're trying to earn. Ever since I played this game, I found it to be an incredibly satisfying 2-player back and forth where you're trying to figure out how to score points more efficiently, what cards you want to draft, and what cards you want to flip, hoping to get the right cards that will show up that work well for your engine. It plays in like 20 minutes, it teaches in 5, it's just an incredibly satisfying experience. If you like any kind of puzzly, point scoring, travel friendly game, check out Skulls of Sedlec from Button Shy, a fantastic little puzzle game, not puzzle game, but a fantastic little puzzly. It's not a puzzle. It's a puzzle in the sense that you're trying to efficiently score points. But check this one out. That's Skulls of Sedlec, my number 44. My number 43 is going to be the largest box we have on the table, and honestly, it's only half of my... It's actually less than that. It's like a third of my collection of this, and that is Marvel Champions. This is currently in its One Sharp Joe box, because I don't have the... Actually, I do have some of the original boxes. Some of the expansion campaigns I haven't actually sleeved and dealt with yet. Anyways, Marvel Champions is still a delightful experience. It's not on my table as much as I'd like to. In fact, I even stopped gathering new Marvel Champions stuff because I don't play as much as I'd like to, but it still is incredibly satisfying. This is a LCG. From Fantasy Flight Games, LCG, a limited collectible game or a living collectible game. I never remember whether it's living or limited, but it's a game in which you're trying to build out your own little decks based around the particular hero you choose, but then deck building the various attribute cards that are going to go into your deck to complement that hero. Then you're going to take that hero, or multiple heroes, either playing them two-handed yourself or playing with multiple players, and then going against the various villains you're going to be facing off against. And again, there's ways to modulate that difficulty, as well as various campaigns you can go through that'll give you a challenge there. But ultimately, you're trying to use your cards, your deck, and your economy, your hand economy, in order to figure out your way to take down the enemy that you're faced with. Ultimately, it's a cooperative or solo card game of building a deck, taking down a baddie, rinse and repeat, face off against bigger, worse baddies, and build bigger and better decks, and then ultimately grow your collection so you can enjoy the satisfaction of the different kinds of decks, the different characters you can build with. Honestly, even just talking about this makes me want to go and catch up on the last year of content that I have not gotten. Probably should do that. Probably shouldn't do that. Probably want to do that. Marvel Champions is incredibly satisfying. I have 2 of these giant One Sharp Joe inserts. I have another one that I need to put together to store all my new stuff once I actually get around to sorting and sleeving it. But this is a incredibly satisfying deck building experience. Right now for me, this and Lorcana are the only deck games that I'm getting into. And no, Lorcana is not my top 100. I enjoy playing it a lot, but right now it's still in the... I enjoy it a lot more because I'm going through it with my daughter. It doesn't give me the same satisfaction that Marvel Champions does. But it's fun, but today we're talking about Marvel Champions. Anyways, that's Marvel Champions, my number 43. My number 42 is the other one that is new to this list. Did I say there are 2? I said there are 2. It was Unconcious Mind, and then this other one. 42 is the other one that is new to me, although not new by any means. I just happen to have played it for the first time finally this year, and I've already played it 6 or 7 times since. This is Clans of Caledonia from Karma Games. They recently had a crowdfunding campaign for the newest expansion, which finally had me diving into the game to see if it was for me or not, to see if it was a game that I enjoyed or didn't need to get more stuff for it. And I really enjoy this. This is an elegant Euro game that is incredibly simple. I talked about how much I enjoy Unconcious Mind, and I do. I think it's phenomenal, but Clans of Caledonia has a simplicity to it. It has an ease of being able to quickly teach the game, give people the core concepts. It's not completely overwhelming, but the strategy that will develop, that's where the overwhelmingness will come into play. Because the strategy forces you to consider so much. You're going to be, first of all, you're getting a highly asymmetric faction every time you play, and I love how highly asymmetric factions are because it really forces me to adjust my playstyle every time I dive back into it. But ultimately, it's all about building up your engines. It's all about building up your across 6 rounds of play, 5 rounds of play, 5 rounds of play. You're going to be building up your own infrastructure, placing various cows and sheep and wheat, and then trying to use various processing factories in order to go ahead and turn that into whiskey or bread or cheese, I believe, and you're trying to figure out your best way of building up your infrastructure, being mindful of the fact that you're working on these imports and exports in the game in order to get more points, and being mindful of the various connections that your clans are going to have, as well as how you build around others and what you try to do to earn more points, even the random points, not random, the preset goals of how you're going to get extra points at the end of each round based on what you've accomplished in that particular round, or up to that particular round. There's a lot going on in it, but it's one of those games that the simplicity of the actual rules is incredibly elegant, but the strategy that develops as you play, or the strategy that's just present before you even begin playing, and then even more so as the board develops, as you react to what other players are doing or are not doing in the game. Clans of Caledonia is an excellent Euro game. Plays in like 90 minutes-ish, and once you get the hang of it, could be a little longer, you know, your first few plays, but I'd say you can even get it down to 60 minutes once you know it more. It's easy to understand and a lot to go on as far as mastering the game. And then my number 41 is, well, I took, again, another one where I have little samplings of it because a lot of it is behind my head. My number 41 is Unsettled. I grabbed two little planet boxes just to have a visual representation on the table. But Unsettled from Orange Nebula is my number 41, and this is one of my favorite adventure games in my collection. This is a game that's going to give you, first of all, give you single-shot games. This is not a campaign game. It's not a legacy game. It doesn't ask more of you than you need to give it at any given point. It basically says, hey, here's a framework of how the game plays. Also, here's a planet box that's going to completely change that framework. If you've noticed from some of the things I've talked about today, I do appreciate asymmetry. I appreciate powers and abilities and things that mix up the gameplay experience, things that let me understand how to play and then force me to re-examine everything I knew because you gave me something new to consider, whether it's the powers and abilities of Clans of Caledonia, whether it's tackling a new enemy with a new hero deck in Marvel Champions, or whether it's going ahead and taking a different planet box and diving into something new in the Unsettled universe, in the Unsettled framework, that forces you to reconsider how you're going to approach the game. Ultimately, you are given a planet. Planets have multiple missions in them, I believe usually 3 missions, each mission being a bit different, but operating under the same rules of that planet. So again, you have a overarching framework, you have a planet, and then 3 missions within that planet, although I think there are things, if I'm not mistaken, there's additional missions you could have gotten for various extra content so that planets have more than 3 missions. I'm getting sidetracked, but you're going to try to figure out what you need to do because of the challenge that you're currently faced with. You're flying through space, you're dealing with various planets, sometimes you're dealing with your own spaceship, and things are going to be thrown at you that you have to deal with. And no, this is not a combat game. This is not a game about fighting things. This is a game about trying to figure out how to persevere past the challenge that's been thrown at you, which is going to be different every single time. The notes that are in common is every single planet is going to have a bunch of cards that are laid out, different ways to traverse those planets, different things you're going to have as far as the abilities the planet's going to give you, the various opportunities you can hold on to that will give you different things to bypass all the stuff that's in your way. You also have these stations you can go ahead and build, these buildings you can build, they'll give you more abilities you can go ahead and have access to, but it's all about trying to manage the different resources in the game and the abilities you're going to gather to try to power past the things that are in your way, and every planet's giving you a different combination of those to force you to relearn everything you thought you knew. It's incredibly variable, highly rewarding, plays well solo and cooperative, and Unsettled is a fantastic game and my number 41 game of all time. That is basically it for this particular list. We'll be back tomorrow. I think tomorrow we'll be back tomorrow with our number 40 through 31. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.